Fancy graphic.
So, yeah, hey Sandy, Scott, welcome to the stream. It's getting wacky, it's getting silly. You are the second segment of the day, so bear with us here as we roll into your segment here. But first, let's start with introductions. People want to know who you are and what do you do, not just what your title is. What do you do? What would you say you do here?
I take the requirements from the customer and I hand it to the developers.
I can go first. I'm Sandeep, I'm product manager in the AWS. I make the data cataloging and permissioning easy for our customers.
Nice, I like that.
That's nice and succinct.
Yeah, I like that.
Make it easy for customers.
Yes. Hey, welcome to the show, Scott. Hey.
Hey guys, great to be with you. I'm Scott. I'm a product manager on the Amazon Athena service, and I'll be your ski instructor for today with federated queries.
Awesome.
Nice.
And I love Athena, by the way. If you've seen any of the security shows that I've hosted, we're using Athena a lot to query who did what, where, when, and how, who done it. And then SageMaker, I'm not a rocket doctor, but Sandeep makes it easy, as he just said. So please explain it to me like I'm 5 and on the bunny slope here.
Yeah, we're gonna break this down. One thing. So what were customers do? Oh yeah, where do we start here? So like first say what it is, okay? Then we'll get into how it's used. How about that? So what are we talking about?
Yeah, so what we're talking about is this new offering we just launched at re:Invent called SageMaker Lakehouse. In particular, in this, we are talking about a federation aspect. So we saw the Amazon S3, all this data lake, right? But the customers also have sources, which are warehouses, object stores like, DynamoDBs and the transaction database. And they want like a single view where it's easy to catalog, easy to apply permission, a single view to access your data. So that's what we call Lakehouse and federation capabilities.
Okay, I see. I'm picking up on a theme here. We are making it easier for customers, and we're hearing from them that they need things to be easier in one place to manage it. So what was the problem that customers were running into? Let's dive into that a little bit. What was the problems that customers were running into with this type of data or system?
Yeah, Scott, do you want to go, or I can?
Yeah, I can take a crack at it. So on the Athena service, right? Like a lot of folks come and want to query the data that they have in S3, and we just saw Lee demo that, and Kyle, you were talking about how you're using Athena quite a bit, which we'd love to hear, but not all data is in S3, right? Like customers have, as Sandeep mentioned, some data in DynamoDB. You've got data in a warehouse like Redshift. You may have data over there in Snowflake or another cloud provider. And so what Athena offers, and the problem that Athena can kind of help customers solve, is allowing you to connect to and run queries on that data without having to move the data and without having to ask your analysts and data scientists to learn a radically new query syntax, right? So Athena supports the ANSI SQL dialect, so that's a common format. So Athena has this capability to run what we call federated queries on this collection of data sources. And it's a really convenient feature that allows you to sort of join the data that you may have in DynamoDB with data that you're storing in S3, for example, to gain a broader set of insights on your data. And so one of the problems that the Athena customers have had for a while now when using this feature is really thinking through the governance aspect of that experience. And that's where, my partnership and collaboration with Sandeep has brought us to Lakehouse as a way to sort of solve that problem and unify the experience around not only the catalog experience or the data discovery, but then how do you then secure that data with permissions so that the right folks have access to the right data?
Okay, I think I'm starting to pick up what you're putting down. You're saying that there are data sources, just like there's no one generative AI model to rule, there's no one database to rule all that. Each database has its own sort of need, or data storage serves its own purpose, and we need to combine those things into one place. And Amazon Athena has been doing this through federated queries. So not just, you don't have to pull all that data in and then query it. You can query it where it exists. So that's Amazon Athena, but then you don't want to just turn that on and let anybody do it and have just have access to all the different data sources. So you have to manage that, and that's cumbersome too, right? Because now I'm managing it over here in this place. Who has guessed it? Then I'm managing it over here, and I'm managing over here, and I can imagine how that gets hairy real quick.
It gets very hairy.
Okay, not like Kyle's face
No, I was going to say, not like the three bearded individuals that are on this call. Sorry, Sandeep.
Sorry, Sandeep, you didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
Check
we
your
can
mail.
yeah.
We sent you one that you can wear.
So Sandeep, let's get a little bit deeper into what a lakehouse is, because we were talking about data lakes. We're talking about a lot of different water euphemisms here. What is a lakehouse in this context?
Yeah, so we talked about Amazon S3 before this, right? So that's the data lake that almost, many of our AWS customers familiar with, use it every day. And then we have like Redshift, right, which is our cloud data warehouse, which performs the really great performance, right? And if you think about data lake, the kind of the lake part of it and the house part of the warehouse, bringing those together to create this lake house effect, where you're bringing the best of both worlds. So one, which is the data lake S3, where you have this infinite ways of, in a sense, accessing the data with multiple open standards and very cost effective. And with the warehouse, you get this high performant, managed, completely automated query performance, right? And you are getting this best of the both worlds with the warehouse. And on top of that, we are adding, with the collaboration with the Athena Federation related queries, this concept of federation. So it's not just limited to, again, to your data lakes and warehouses. We are supporting a lot more, right? So we're supporting your RDS, your MySQL, your Postgres, your DynamoDB, and even third-party sources, right? Like Snowflake and BigQuery. Those all come inside the lakehouse. You get those kind of single catalog, single permission mechanisms, and ability to use the query engines in that platform.
Yeah, Sandeep, I love the way that you explained that. You have data lakes, you have data warehouses, drop the data, what do you get? Lake house. Okay, and so we get the best of both worlds, and then you're saying we can go beyond just warehouses and data lakes. We can now start to do, relational databases or object storage databases. Is maybe this metadata, you want to tie that into some of this. Okay, I think I'm picking it up. I think questions from the chat. We want to hear the chat. Have you heard of lakehouse architectures? Are you using it? What else do we got? Let's see if we can wake this chat up. Hello.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Girl, you put a little makeup.
I was waiting. Okay, so
Steve are like, why did we do this?
Yeah. They're like, let's just get back to work and actually do something cool for our customers. So you're going to show us how this works, or presumably we got a demo. This is what we do on the show. We talk about why, then we get into how. Maybe it's time to bring up that. Hi, Jib Jab.
Yeah,
let's hop on the lift and show us the demo. Hold on, wait, demo dance.
Demo dip. Oh my gosh, it doesn't get better.
What?
Just kidding. I love it. I love the energy. It's Friday.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're looking at the AWS console right now. Okay.
Yeah, so now you can see that there is Amazon SageMaker and there is Amazon SageMaker AI, right? So previously it was primarily about creating new models, creating machine learning and all that. We basically renamed it to SageMaker AI, and the SageMaker is basically became the kind of the platform where you bring the data and AI and ML together, right? So you go into the AWS console, you go into the SageMaker, right, as an administrator. And that provides you a way to kind of entry point as a center for your data analytics AI. And the way you get started, you use what is called the domain, right? You create a domain and then you kind of configure the domain. I already created a domain. So this is the Lakehouse domain I created.
We lost your screen, Sandeep.
I think Nick's trying to prove that even though I did the demo dance, that he's in control.
We're getting some communication from our producers here. They're saying that. What's that? Huh?
Yep, something about. Yep, there we go.
Got it.
Oh yeah, got it. Okay, awesome. So yeah. So you are in the SageMaker, and you can see the domains that are out there, right? And you can go and configure those domains. And what we provided is what we call Open Unified Studio, right? So when you open the Unified Studio within the domain, you get this kind of new experience, right? So this new experience is about bringing your data, your generative AI playground assets all together, and in an easy to use way, which is we call projects, right? So this, you as a data admin, you'll create a project. I already created a project, and inside the project, you will see this a capability called Lakehouse. So now you are in this world of Lakehouse, where you have this set of all these sources, right? So we talked about Amazon S3 and all those cool databases and tables that are there. They all show up, right? So you can go and in the glue catalog and look at it. But not only that, you now have access to your DynamoDB, MySQL, your Postgres, your Redshift, the S3 tables that we talked earlier. That's there as well, and the Snowflake, right? So you have a kind of ability to go across the sources, not just like S3 or S3 tables, but the Redshift and then the Snowflake of the world, as well as the operational sources.
Yeah, it truly is a unified studio experience. I didn't. This was something we launched just at Reinvent. This is brand new. This is still hot.
This is brand new, and you can see this preview cooking tab here, right? So this part is still the preview. The Lakehouse we made it GA, so this capability is out there and it's GA. But this console experience is preview.
This is huge because you're providing this unified, comprehensive view for all these different data sources, and especially for organizations that deal with large sets of data, and then maybe mergers and acquisitions. They want to be able to join this data and just, not have to go and do a bunch of bits and bytes and sauce. And I'm totally downplaying what happens because it's such a complex thing. Again, not a rocket doctor, but you're making it more simple to be able to make data into an organizational commodity.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes on AWS, you don't want to plan for where you are. You want to plan for where you want to be, where you're going to be. And so, yeah, you may only have one database now, but I can promise you it won't be that way for long. Okay, so what do we got next on this demo here? So we're looking at a bunch of different data sources.
Yeah. And it's very easy to anyone to get added, right? So you go and add a connections, and we have a bunch of connectors here. You go and select any of these, and you provide the connection information, and that just gets it added here, right? And then all this information about the catalog and the databases and tables are available to you, right? So that's the kind of viewing and the permissioning part of it is kind of follows, right? So we talked about kind of the permissioning, and Scott talked about kind of bringing that permission together. Anytime you create those catalogs, those get showed up in our Lake Formation console as kind of federated catalogs, right? So the same thing I showed is also available in the admin console. If you want to kind of, you're the security experts and you want to look at each of the permissions, you can go and look at that, right? So in detail.
Sandeep, you just switched service. I blinked and you switched services on me. So we were in SageMaker Unified Studio. This is a whole nother service. We're in AWS Lake Formation, which has been around. But you're saying that information got brought into a Lake Formation automatically?
Or it's the other way around, right? So you can say that, you can say that administrator view is to, if it's S3 table or the metadata table we talked about, or Postgres, I get this admin view, but as a user or a data worker, I just get to see what is made available to me, right?
Okay.
So and the key part of it, and we want to kind of first stress a little bit on this, which is it's also fine grained, right? So let if you take an example of, let's say this DynamoDB, right?
Gun forever.
So this DynamoDB has three columns, like zip code, customer, phone, and phone may be a PII, is personally identified information. You may not want to give it to everyone, right? So for those users, maybe you can create kind of a different role and a different project, in fact, and provide the access. For example, sales team, maybe they don't need access to everything, right? So as the users, you add them to a sales project, right? And they get to see only some parts of it. They may not see everything, but they may get maybe some tables which they want to kind of utilize, and some parts of kind of DynamoDB table. And particularly if you look at it, the same table in DynamoDB, it's showing only zip code and customer ID. It's not showing the PI information for this particular user in this particular project, right? So you have this fine-grained ways where you can provide these permissions, even though it's a lot of data, it's a lot of tables and databases. You can still control it at a fine-grained level and provide exact access to at a level of column or even rows, right? Whether who should get access to what.
Kyle, how are your security senses tingling right now?
They're a tingling because I really like. Again, we're talking about potentially petabytes of data, right? And being able to control that access. I mean, we all go through it everywhere throughout the world. You know, we go through data privacy e-learnings or something like that, or handling of sensitive information, and this is giving us that ability to really tighten down that, you know, information that, you know, may not need to be disclosed to, say, someone in sales, but you got someone within HR that would need to see those more sensitive data columns or whatever that case may be.
Well, I can imagine too, in heavily regulated industries, there's going to be some compliance aspect to that as well.
Yeah, you need to be able to say who has what and the ability to do what with what.
Right.
That's kind of it in a nutshell.
And the fun really starts to increase, you know, Kyle, as you would imagine, when you not only have these departmental, but also geographic requirements, and how those permission mechanisms vary by data source, right? So we know DynamoDB and how permissions work there, but let's say I think the example was given earlier through maybe an acquisition of a new company. There's now a new data source, which has a new way to express their policies and permissions. Yeah. So what's really neat about this experience is how Lake Formation provides a consistent mechanism to sort of express those policies. And it does that through a set of constructs like Sandeep demoed with the catalogs and permissions at a database and table level. And what's really neat about that is you now have this kind of unifying like permission layer for all of these data sources that kind of go beyond, again, the potentially the AWS cloud. So that's where it gets really interesting. And you can imagine the complexity that customers are sort of navigating when they're, you know, trying to integrate and bring all this data together. And this is why, you know, from a design standpoint with Unified Studio, one of our goals was to try to like just present the data as simply as possible and kind of lay it out there for users to freely navigate and be able to click through, subject to their permissions, of course.
Yeah, Scott, I like the way that you explained that, but I can assure you that is only fun for nerds like us here. But yeah, that's a great explanation about how unifying this, you know, it kind of reminds me, gosh, I've said this word too many times in the last week, of what of simplexity. You remember the reinvent? Like, it seems simple now, like what's happening in Unified Studio, but there's a complex thing happening underneath, but we've been able to obscure that complexity through a really simple unified interface, which is pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure Sandeep has all my prescriptions on the screen right now.
Yeah, so yeah, what Scott was talking, what I was doing was like showing the capability where the engines are integrated in here, right? So for some of the tables in S3, you can do it through multiple engines, the Athena Redshift, and others. For this ones, we are specifically integrated with, in this case, the Athena I'm showing here. And
wait, so this is an embedded Athena query console.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Airtime today. Yeah.
Athena.
And by the way, for those that are watching and are like, what is this Athena thing they're talking about? If I could simplify it, and Scott, please don't attack me. It's a serverless way of being able to query data, and you're only going to be accruing a cost when you're executing that query. So it's not technically humming along when you're not using it. It is just not doing anything. And so when Sandeep ran that query, then it's like, oh, I'm running for X duration, and now I'm going to, you know, put that usage towards your monthly bill. But it's a great way to query data.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
And spot on, Kyle. I'll have to pull you into my next meeting with a customer.
Sounds like
that. Yes.
It is one of those services that is pivotal. I mean, it's used in so many different contexts, whether you're doing analytics and business insights and you're using QuickSight and you want to bridge that gap in querying, Athena is going to be there. If you're data lakes and metadata, I mean, we've said it so much today, like it's featured so much today. It really is a pivotal service worth knowing.
And let me just explain one part of kind of the journey that Sandeep is kind of displaying. Although I work on Athena, myself, Sandeep, and a whole number of other folks were also involved in the SageMaker Unified Studio project. So our sort of thinking there is, customers some of them may be consuming and using Athena through the console. Some may be using it through their, driver-based applications and whatnot. Unified Studio sort of presents a new paradigm shift for how users and AWS customers can consume their data. And really the thought process there is we want to make these individual service to service kind of choices that you make in building those workflows start to kind of disappear over time. Mm-hmm. And so the reason, the kind of place that you see Athena in here is as a compute provider, or as a kind of integration point. You also see Redshift in here, so you're able to kind of leverage the Redshift query engine underneath, assuming you've connected to it. And so the idea is Athena can connect to data, and those connectors that Athena supports to not only S3, but Dynamo, those are now registered through the Lakehouse catalog, permissions through the Lakehouse catalog, and then visible as queryable objects with the Athena engine through the Unified Studio. And so you get all the same features that you would have in the Athena console presented here uniformly and easily toggleable to another query engine.
All right, Scott, I'm going to bring this back to another reInvent messaging thing. Something about hosting with Kyle, just like I'm having reInvent flashbacks. When we talked to Dr. Swami, Kyle and I, he talked about this idea of innovation convergence. We've innovated in all of these services, and Athena was like an innovative way to query data and not pay for what Kyle was just describing. Then we have these databases. They were innovative in and of themselves, and now they're converging under one hood, and we call that SageMaker Unified Studio. So yeah, that's a great explanation, Scott. I like that. It's just I'm getting triggered by all my reInvent thing. Maybe I just needed a month to let it sink in.
More like night terrors. He's like, I had to host with Kyle.
No, that's great. Okay, cool. So Sandeep, we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. What's the most important thing? Are we missing something?
I think one thing is the cool part is you have all these sources, right? Which is DynamoDB and S3s and Redshift and others. And now you have a way to query those together, right? You can join this data from different tables in different sources across this, boundaries, which you couldn't do before. And what while you guys were talking, I just did that, which is I did kind of the inner join between your DynamoDB table, and then one of the S3 table that is in the data lake, right? For this particular customer ID, so that I was able to pull up some of the information, the customer specific information, right? And that's some capabilities where now in a sense the boundary between these data sources are getting blurred when you do the query, right? So you have this unified ways of catalog or discovery, unified permissions, but in fact the querying capabilities across the sources. Right?
Yeah,
do we have access to the? Sorry, Todd. Do we have access to the saved queries feature that Athena has within this Unified Studio?
Yes, it's a little different here. We call these query books because, and Sandeep maybe could demo, at the bottom of the screen, you're able to add an additional SQL statement. So here you have kind of like a vertical canvas for developing analytics. So that's a cool new feature. And then these are saved automatically as you sort of use the experience. But if you click the actions button, that allows you to explicitly save it and give it a name. And then what's cool is you can close the experience and come back tomorrow, crack open your query book, and kind of your context is restored, so that the choice of the fact that you're using the Athena engine or the Redshift engine is restored, and Unified Studio kind of gets you back to where you were, so you can continue your analysis.
And I also see our little friend that we all know and love, the little hexagon that's purple and blue.
We all love that.
Amazon Q.
So Amazon Q integrated. So there's some different experiences that are new here for Athena console users, also Redshift query editor users. So a lot of good kind of new capabilities kind of landing in the unified experience.
Yeah, Scott, this is so cool. I mean, you can imagine what customers had to do before this existed, right? Like you had all these different data sources. You had to pull all that data together under one hood, which, I mean, that in and of itself is a massive endeavor. And then once it's on there, you have to optimize it within there, despite the fact you've already optimized it at its source. So there's so much to do there. But now you're saying we can query cross data sources and leave and go get lunch and come back and keep working, or come back the next day with some of these features in Unified Studio, and then start to use generative AI. So I think those are all really incredible features, and I think that's about it, all the time we have. If folks want to learn more or get their hands a little dirtier than what they saw in this demo, where would you direct them?
Yeah, so we have a couple of blogs out there. First of all, there's Lakehouse documentation that provides kind of entry point for you to kind of start playing with it. And then there are blogs which goes in a lot of details about, okay, how do you configure the connectors? How can you mash those data sources and different data from the sources together?
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll drop those blogs in the chat. Sandeep, Scott, thanks for coming on. Awesome demo. Thank you.